Hello, this is Sarah Palin again. Happy to get to guest host again on Point. Welcome back. Tonight's show, we delve into the latest on the deal with the devil, also known as Iran. Will Congress do their job upon their return from recess? Will they stop Obama from surrendering to Iran? Why crony capitalists are shaking in their loafers over the success of outsider candidates Wayne Allen Root. He's going to weigh in, and that is later. And we'll meet the ladies behind the viral sensation, We Be Sisters. They're new to politics, and they are shaking things up. I am in love with this phenomenon. You're going to love it. Also, Senator Rand Paul joins me to discuss his campaign. He's up in Alaska today. He tells us all about his plan to defeat the Washington machine. And finally, why is Facebook stripping religious names from Catholic clergy, demanding they provide a government ID to prove their identity while they're making an extra effort to welcome in drag queens, drag kings? We'll talk about that. And more Obama foreign policy flubs. This so-called deal with Iran, let alone the fact that secret side deals are emerging. This deal with Iran, it doesn't hinder Iran's ability to make nukes. Congress has until September to stop this deal, but will they?
Are you entirely comfortable going forward with a historic deal knowing that most of the people's representatives are against it?
Well, what I know is that, unfortunately, a large portion of the Republican Party, if not a near unanimous portion of Republican representatives, are going to be opposed to anything that I do. And I have not oftentimes based that on a judgment on the merits, but have based that on their politics.
Oh, no. Goodness gracious. How wrong can our president be? No, we will oppose the deal, Mr. President, because the United States of America need not surrender to the evil Iranian regime, that's sponsor of terrorism. We don't need to be doing business with the nation whose primary objective is jihad, death to America, obliteration of Israel. No. Joining me is the author of the #1 New York Times best-selling book, Rise of ISIS, A Threat We Can't Ignore. He's a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom. He's National Review writer, David French. And David, what is the alternative to this deal? Is it war, as President Obama is threatening?
You know, of course it's not war. The alternative to this deal is a different agreement actually negotiated with the full power of the American democracy and American allies at our back. This was a deal that Obama struck when he took the use of force off the table, essentially conceded that we were going to give up on sanctions. In other words, he gave up all of the leverage in this deal and then essentially begged the Iranians to throw him a few bones, which they didn't even do. We've left 4 Americans behind in Iran. We couldn't even get 4 Americans freed as part of this deal. And instead, Iran gets $150 billion in sanctions relief. It gets advance notice of inspections where it can even block them if it so chooses. It gets side deals where they inspect themselves. It gets ballistic missiles. It gets conventional arms. It gets everything at once.
Yeah, it's the fox watching the hen house, of course. And David, the book that you wrote is fascinating, and it predicted a lot of these things that we're seeing to come to pass. But it was written even before this deal was struck. So now, having written that, sharing your perspective with the American people and educating us on probably what it is that we can expect. The deal is struck, and then you're seeing the worst aspects of this deal. Articulate for us what you think are the worst parts of it.
Oh, I think unquestionably the worst part of this is the immediate sanctions relief to an Iranian regime that is not backing away 1 inch from its terrorism. It has promised it's not going to change its policies. It's going to be able to supply Hezbollah with more weapons. It puts bounties on the heads of American soldiers, Governor. It is right now trying to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan. And that's the worst aspect. We're giving them $150 billion in economic aid, in essence, by lifting sanctions. and we're not doing anything truly to slow down their nuclear program. Promises without verification are meaningless. President Reagan understood that. Every president who's serious about foreign policy understands that.
What amazed me, too, is after the deal was struck, then they go off, the other side, Iranians go off and they celebrate and they mock America, and they celebrate it to the tune of death to America after the deal was struck. But can we realistically expect to stop Iran from building nukes, especially if our president, if the leader of the free world, isn't on our side on this?
You know, he leads with weakness. It's not leading from behind, it's leading with weakness. And in the Middle East, weakness is mocked and weakness is exploited. He's literally trying to win over the mullahs of Iran, who are our sworn enemies, and he's trying to win them over by giving them money and essentially hoping that that's going to cause them to hate us less. Their hatred of the United States is deeply embedded in their faith, in their religious faith that they have in Iran. It is deeply embedded, and they are jihadists. That is what jihadists do, is they wage war against the West. The only response to jihad that works is strength. Weakness is exploited.
Well, you know, for the life of us, most Americans, we cannot figure out why would Obama strike such a deal and do this to America. I want to know, though, your opinion on this. How does it work anyway? Us telling other nations what to do, what works to kind of change their thinking? Is it sanctions, perhaps?
Well, you know, number one, we just conceded on sanctions. We could have kept them in place. The sanctions were the only reason why Iran was coming to the bargaining table anyway, but we just gave up on that. We assumed that our allies would capitulate. We assumed that we would capitulate. Why? Because that was the intention. That was the design, was to bring Iran back into the community of nations. So what the president here, he has a worldview that says that Iran hates us because of things we've done to Iran. So if we just treat Iran better, then Iran won't hate us anymore. It's unbelievably naive and destructive. They hate us because their theology, because their ideology mandates that they hate us. They're Islamic supremacists. They will not be happy until the world is subjected to Islam, and we stand in the way of that.
Goodness. Well, David, I thank you so much for your expertise on this. And I think what our president is expressing is the definition of being a sympathizer, and that's putting us in harm's way. So, David, thank you so much. Keep up the good work. Keep educating Americans. And next up, I want to talk about why Democrats should be worried about the Donald. Wait till you see these gals campaigning for him. Don't go anywhere.